The oldest and the greatest sport has undergone significant changes since it first arrived on college campuses in the early part of the 20th century. Over the years, uniforms have changed, rules have been revised, and the point scoring system has been implemented. However, for fans today, the most startling difference may be that prior to World War II, a number of colleges conducted their wrestling events in a roped-off ring like we see in boxing and professional wrestling shows today. What do you mean by a wrestling ring? The most common type of ring setup appears to have been a squared ring, mats placed on the gym floor surrounded by multi-tiered wrestling ropes held together via the ring post, each in four corners of the mat. When constructed, we have ourselves a ring. This describes a ring in this 1930s photograph on the screen now. Back then, did every college have a wrestling ring for their amateur wrestling program? The answer to that question apparently is no. After a decade of conducting research, many photographs of wrestling rings were found in the Midwest. Many universities also had wrestling rings. We want to know the rules regarding college wrestling rings. You can take a look at the official wrestling guide published each year by the NCAA. These guides provide explanations and illustrations providing wrestling rules. The 1939 official wrestling guide featured 2 full pages of nothing but wrestling rings. 3 1-inch ropes shall be tightly stretched 2 feet, 3 feet and 4 feet respectively above the mat. These ropes shall extend from supporting posts which shall be placed at least 18 back from each of the 4 corners of the ring. Cotton ropes are recommended, but if manila or sisal ropes are used, they must be wrapped in burnt-in or soft material to avoid rope burns to prevent the spread of rope during bouts and rope burns. They shall be securely fastened. Raised platforms are not recommended and should not be used without ropes. Even when used with ropes, the platform should extend at least 6 foot beyond the ropes or all sides of the ring. It is recommended for competition and for the practice that the wrestling mat be covered with a cotton filler cover sufficiently large enough to fold under the mat. This cover should be stretched tight and may be held in place by horse blankets, safety pins fastening the cover to the underside of the mat. What about the rules for what the wrestlers could do in the ring? Nothing specific about how the wrestlers were supposed to behave inside the ring that would be different than wrestling on the mat or the floor without a ring rope. This was described by critics at the time as being a cowboy ride. Descriptions of a couple of incidents involving cowboy wrestlers in a roped-off ring that might provide some insights as to what might have been allowed or forbidden. So, we've got to ask ourselves, what happened to these wrestling rings for amateur wrestling? Well, it goes back down to the cowboy ride again. The ropes and the rings become illegal in 1942, the last season of college wrestling before the sport took a 3-year break for World War II. In my research, I have not found any reasons whatsoever as to why the wrestling ring was outlawed for amateur wrestling in colleges in certain states of America. However, I'll be doing my investigations with the YMCA in England to investigate as to whether they ever used professional wrestling rings for amateur wrestling. I really do wonder to myself how things would have been different in the evolution of professional wrestling if the amateur ranks were using the ring. Perhaps things could have gone in a completely different way. I do believe the ring is the major part of the success to professional wrestling throughout the decades. If you've got any interesting information on this subject, please leave it in the comments below. Also, whilst you're there, give us a subscribe. If anyone watching this video is interested in having their own professional wrestling rings delivered, you could get in contact with myself, Phil Powers, at live.co.uk, and we offer lots of different variants and sizes of professional wrestling rings. We will be having an update in prices and sizes and legislation in 2022. However, if you go to www.ringslamwrestling.com, so there you have it. You learn something new every single day. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and watch more of our videos from Ring Slam Wrestling. Thank you for watching.